Go over there and do the same thing.
Good day, beautiful people. So, we are live again. Today, we're about to do a few things, man. If you guys notice, in my videos, I very rarely focus on one specific thing, when I'm training dogs, because I like to do what I call real life training, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with focusing on one specific thing, specifically if you are trying to change one behavior, right? But for me, when I'm training dogs, there's never really one specific thing that I'm looking to be hyper focused on, because there's never one specific thing that's happening in real life, right? In real life, there's multiple things that are always happening, right? So anytime I do a training session, I try to depict what the training will look like in real time, right? Because I can't predict what kind of stimulus is going to come into the equation. So if a unaccounted for stimulus comes into the equation, then I have to adjust in real time. And what I've learned, right, when trying to teach people how to train their own dogs, a lot of the training that they've learned is very mechanical, right? So they don't know how to maneuver when a situation comes up that they did not account for, that they can't control, right? So this is how you get a lot of reactive dogs, because the owners don't know how to take those hard cookie cutter mechanics and translate them into real life. So, for the most part, when I'm doing a video, unless it's something specific someone asks me to, talk about, for the most part, the vast majority of my videos are going to be what I call real-time training. Right now, we are at the park today, right? So the ultimate goal for Teddy here is confidence, right? But there's going to be other things that's going to come up, right, while we are looking to build confidence, that we're going to address in real time. So we're going to talk about it. So I just wanted to clarify that, because, I know a lot of the time when you go on the internet, you see how to stop your dog from leash pulling, right, which is good information. But the problem is, when you're so mechanical like that, it's hard to translate that to in real life, right? Especially when you are in a controlled environment. Because let's be real, when you're walking your dog, you don't control that environment, right? So the mechanics are good. Don't get me wrong. When you see those videos, a lot of the mechanics are good, but it's hard for people that don't train dogs to translate that to real life. And that's what I'm about, is doing my best to show people how to manage their dogs in real time, in real life. So let's get to it, right? So the first thing I'm going to show you here is what I call crate etiquette, right? So that's something we've been working on with Teddy here. And crate etiquette is basically saying, hey, look, when I open this cage, that don't mean you just come busting out and run out, right? Now, this cage etiquette translates to any type of threshold, right? So it could be a door, it could be a bat, it could be any threshold that you want to create to let the dog know that there's a boundary that you do not want that dog to cross. This concept translates to any boundary you want to set. It actually doesn't even have to be a door there. It could be an imaginary line, because dogs are very spatially aware. So once you create that boundary, and the reason why we know this is because think about animals in the wild, specifically wolves, right? They don't have doors or fence to separate their territory, right? So they know their territory by, landmarks, smell, sight, all of those things, right? So because they're so spatially aware, you don't have to have a hardcore door to separate, a boundary for a dog, right? So let's get to it, right? So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open the door. If he comes running out, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to politely close that door on his nose a little bit to let him know, hey, that you're being rude. Just because I open that door, that doesn't mean you just come running out, right? No. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the door again, but here's the thing. This is how I create behaviors, right? Because it's not just about closing the door. What I'm actually waiting for him to do is sit down, right? Because that's an indication for me that he's submitting to the calm energy that I'm looking to create in the moment, right? So, right? that gives me leverage. That actually helps me be able to identify if he's going to try to run out of the cage again. Because think about it, right? That gives me an extra second or two because he has to lift his butt up and then go. If he's already standing up, he can just dart out, right? So again, I'm all about creating leverage, right? So there you go. You see he's keeping his butt on the ground, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to invite him to me, right? I'm going to give him permission to cross the threshold, right? Good boy. Come on, Teddy. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Now, of course, this is where dogs go into what we call avoidance, right? And that's a natural sequence, right? So now I have to let him know that it's okay for him to cross that barrier, right? So, Teddy, come on. Let's go. Good boy. Yes, that's a good boy. Come on, Teddy. That's a good boy. There you go. Come on. All right. So let's get to it. Let's go. Now, boom. So remember I said we're working on confidence, right? But as you can see in the moment, he's being bad on the leash, right? So now I have to make sure I address this. Come. Yes, good boy. Okay. Yes, good boy. Come. Yes, good boy. Right here. Hey. Yes, good boy. Right? So now all I'm doing is recalibrating his brain, right? Getting him to understand, yes, we're in a new area. He has a stranger right there he's looking at, right? I don't care about none of that. I need you to focus on me, right? So now it's actually time for him to eat. So I'm gonna see if I can use this only because, right, this is his kibble, it's nothing special, right? Only because we're in a new area and some dogs you have to use every tool that's available to you to reel them back in, right? So take it. Hey, come. Yes, good boy. Good boy, yes. That's a good boy. Now I want you guys to notice something, right? You see that tail? That is a telltale sign, pun intended, of lack of confidence, right? So you have to understand a dog's body language in order to understand what the dog is thinking, right? So this is why we're here, right? I'm going to show you guys some of the things I do to help build the dog's confidence. Now I'm going to be honest with you. Can we increase his level of confidence? Of course. But the problem with dogs like this that lack confidence, right? Every time you introduce a new stimulus, their confidence is always going to go down because they're going to second guess before they learn that, oh, everything is okay, right? So you're never really going to change the dog. You can improve the dog, but he is who he is, right? And I try to get people to understand this. We're not looking to try to change who the dog is. We're just trying to we're doing our best to learn how to manage the dog's behavior, right? And the best way to do that is by exposing it to as many different things as you possibly can, right? So that way the dog experiences all of these things, and then when you go into these new situations, because the dog has experienced it already, his confidence won't be so low, right? But that's a process, that takes time, right? But here's the thing, again, you can't always predict what's gonna happen, right? So there's always gonna be a situation to where his brain is gonna say, I don't know what that is, I don't like it, I'm scared of it. So you're gonna get some of the reactivity. What the beautiful thing is, over time, you will learn how to reel it in faster as opposed to letting it escalate, which is what happens in a lot of situations, right? Teddy, come, yes, good boy. Yes, place. 6. Yeah, that's a good boy, yes. Heel. Good boy. All right, let's get to it, folks. I like to do. I like to go down the slide, right? Because think about the slide. It's an unfamiliar surface, it's slippery, it's shiny, the noise is different. Obviously he has no grip, right? So this is one of the best ways to help build a dog's confidence, right? But what I want to show you is the technique and how I do it. Because here's the thing you have to understand about dogs that have what we call fear, anxiety, right? And obviously every dog is going to be a little different, right? Some dogs' fear, anxiety are going to be higher than others, right? But when you have a dog, which I'm assuming is going to happen with Teddy here, excuse me, when you have a dog that has higher fear than food drive, this food in my pocket is not going to work, right? So then what tool do I use? I'm going to show you. Let's go. Let's go. Now you see, look, it's already happening, right? He's looking to run away, right? This is where that fear anxiety kicks in, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to present him with some food to see if I can lure him up the steps, right? Come on, Teddy. Good boy. That's a good boy. Yes. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Right? Now, here's what I want you guys to understand about luring a dog, right? Is it a good way to help a dog get over his fears? Yes and no, right? It depends on the situation. Just because a dog is focused or hyper-focused on one thing that helps him go through something that he previously had fear for, doesn't necessarily mean in all situations that he's aware of what he's doing, right? So the best way to explain that is, let's see if I can sum this up in a couple of words. The lack of situational awareness does not always equal high confidence, right? Which means just because you distract a dog through something doesn't mean the dog is comprehending that it's actually going through the thing that it had fear of, right? So me personally, I don't like to rely on using food as the main tool to get a dog to get over its fear, right? Sometimes I will use it in a temporary situation like you just saw, right? But it's never going to be my main motivating tool. And that's where, excuse me, that's where a lot of people and even a lot of trainers, this is where they lose out. They overuse, excuse me, a particular tool, whether it's food, whether it's a choke chain, whether it's an e-collar, whatever it is, they overuse the tool, and then the problem is the tool gets a bad name, as opposed to the trainer getting a bad name because it misused the tool, right? And you can misuse food, right? You can misuse a toy to motivate a dog, because if you cannot get that dog to perform without using those particular motivators, then you have misused the tool, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go, Teddy. Come on, big fella. Let's go. Good boy. Okay. Now you're gonna get a different surface, right? So you have the wobbly bridge, right? Now, lack of balance. Again, there's holes in it, so the surface feels different. It's slippery. It dips down, then it comes back up. Believe it or not, all of these can be challenges for a dog that already experienced high fear anxiety. So let's see how Teddy handles this wobbly bridge, right? Let's go, Teddy. Good boy, yes. Good boy. That's a good boy. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Good, good. I've seen dogs try to choke themselves to death because they didn't want to go across the bridge, right? So now we're to the ultimate test, which is the slide, right? So this here is like the final bosses of all bosses, right? So we're gonna see if Teddy is willing to come down this slide. So the first thing I'm gonna do is use me as a motivator to see if he follows me down the slide, right? So I'm gonna go down the slide first to see what he does. This open is definitely not made for a 6'2", 260-pound man. All right, there we go. Come on, Teddy. Let's go. Now, we told, okay, you see that flight is starting to kick in, right? So, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull out the food to see if the food drive is higher than his fear drive, right? Now, if I had to guess, I don't believe the food is going to motivate him enough to come down the slide. I believe his fear drive is higher than his food drive. Let's test it and see. Take a look. That's good. That's a good boy. Yes, good boy. Right, so you can see the interest, but it's not high enough for him to go So now this is where I wanted to show you guys another tool that I use to help motivate a dog to get over fear. Now, the reason why I favor this tool, again, is not the only tool I use, but it is probably my favorite out of all of them. Leash pressure, right? Because what that leash pressure does, it forces the dog to deal with the issue, not be distracted from it or avoid it, right? Because remember I told you over there on the steps, just because a dog is distracted and it goes through the thing that it has fear for, doesn't necessarily mean that it's registering in its brain that it's overcoming the fear, right? It's just distracted through it, right? So now if you don't have a distraction to maintain the dog's attention, and it has to go through the same thing, chances are it won't do it, right? So this is why I like this, because it actually forces the dog to deal with the issue and go through it at the same time, right? So, as a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. It's kind of like if you have a fear of heights, right? And somebody blindfolds you and doesn't tell you that they're taking you to the, you know, what we call the Sears Tower or the Willis Tower in Chicago, right? So you don't know that you're going to the top of the Sears Tower, right? So by the time you get up there, you're stuck, because it's like you didn't know you was going, you know, because you were distracted, you were blindfolded. Now there's a difference between you literally seeing yourself go up the elevator, you're looking down, so you see all the people starting to look like ants the higher you go, right? The more you do that, the more you're actually telling your brain like, oh, this is really not that bad. And then eventually you will find that, oh, this is actually kind of fun, right? So this is why I like the leash pressure, because it forces the dog to see what it's dealing with and actually get over the fear in real time, right? So let's do it. So this is why I like the retractable leash, right? Because as you can see, I can give myself enough space to work with the dog, but at the same time maintain control. And it's not as cumbersome, because as opposed to a long leash, right, I have to wrap all that stuff up, I have to maintain all the leash. Here, it just retracts, and I can stop it anytime I want. Now, I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but I want to explain to you the mechanics of what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So when you see it, you can actually see the little progress, right? So with the retractable leash, as he moves forward, right, that means less leash. So it allows me to take away leash. That way, as he moves forward, he has no option to go backwards, right? So I'm gonna say that again. As he moves forward, I take away that leash, which means he has to keep moving forward because he cannot move backwards, right? And that's the goal, is to teach him to move forward, go through it, don't run away from it, right? So let's do it. Let's go, good boy. That's a good boy. Yes, come on, Teddy. Good boy. That's a good boy. Yes. Come on, Teddy. Good boy. Come on. That's a good boy. Yes. Good boy. That's a good boy. Yeah, that's a good boy. All right. Boy, come on now. We gotta do it again. While it's still fresh. Come on, Teddy. Good boy. We gotta do it again while it's fresh. Right? We don't want to wait too long. The dopamine is still there. So we want to take advantage of it. We want to build on that dopamine. Good boy. Now look at his tail. You see his tail a little bit higher? That confidence is building, right? Let's do it again. Good boy. You see how fast he did it that time? Right? All it took was one time. Now let's do it again. Come on, Teddy. Come on. Come on, Teddy. Come on. Come on, Teddy. You gotta strike while the iron is hot. You gotta strike while the iron is hot. Come on, Teddy. Good boy. Yes. Look at that tail. Look at that tail. It's a little higher. Right? My goal is to get that tail all the way up to there if I can. Good boy. That's a good boy. But as you guys see, a lot of people, because they misuse tools, a lot of people will ridicule the fact that I forced the dog to deal with his fear. But as you can see, it works. It took him one time to come down that slide. Now, as you can see, he's coming down it like he's been doing it forever, right? Now, he's still not 100% confident, right? And that's okay, because we can keep doing this and build his confidence over time. But the point, what I wanted you to see is how to use every tool that's available to you to get the results that you're looking to get, right? And leash pressure, for me, if used correctly, and if used with proper discernment, is one of the best tools that you can use to help a dog learn, right, or to teach a dog. So anyway, folks, look, as always, you can always reach out with any questions. You can obviously leave a comment at the end. You can send me an email to thestructuredk9academy@gmail.com, or you can send me a text or call directly, 815-351-6636. And until the next video, you ought to master your faith, the capital of your soul, stay safe, better yet, stay dangerous. Peace and prosperity. Come on, Teddy, let's go, come on.